one word of caution I would say is that, particularly with Southern missions, you know you've been called to the Bible Belt. And one thing I will have to say is to avoid the temptation to criticize other churches. Is that often as we read through the scriptures, we can create unhealthy habits of calling these, each of these institutions evidence of the apostasy or things like that. When I've met some very, very wonderful people who are not of our faith. Methodists, Baptists, Lutherans, Pentecostal, Episcopalians. And to not let a stigma of these churches, we need to go educate these people or something like that, is you have so much to learn from these wonderful people. Obviously, that does not discount that you have a message for them, that you have the restoration of the gospel, you have priesthood authority being brought back to the earth, that God's restored church, His church, is on the earth today. But don't let that undermine the value and the good and the belief in Christ that each of these churches teach, and that they are good. Now, not all of them are. There are institutions that, that would match very well the description in 1 Nephi 13 and 14, but that you give each of them a chance to prove that. As you have the opportunity to serve stateside, you also have the opportunity to get creative with finding opportunities. Particularly in Georgia, one thing that we found particularly helpful is, and as you may more so understand as you turn back to preach my gospel, finding people to teach can happen in so many different ways. There's not just tracting and street contacting. And to not be afraid to recommend to your ward councils that we do something bigger, that we do something, that we're not afraid to enlist ourselves in a project that'll help to bring about salvation. What I mean by that is, in my first area, there was a very very excited sister missionary, and when I first met her, I thought for sure, she must be out for about 6 months. She's still super excited to be here, and no, she was actually on her last transfer, and she absolutely loved her mission. And one thing that she helped to organize before she left was a missionary musical fireside for people to come to and to feel the Spirit. Just opportunities for people in the community to bring people into the church. One thing that I eventually done, because I got in Griffin and Lithia Springs, it was very, very, very poor areas. We did 3 clothing drives. That ultimately it was just a clothing drive in the community. For the members of the church would donate the clothes, and then we'd open our doors on a Sunday or on a Saturday to allow people to just come in and to take what they need. Just people coming in with garbage bags that we would hand to them. Just, hey, fill it up. I truly feel that the future of stateside missionary work depends on our willing to serve those in our areas. And there was one free clothing giveaway that we ended up doing that over 300 people came through the church that day. And because of that, previous to that, we were a little bit struggling with the missionary work, trying to find people to teach. But after that, people were overwhelmed with the love that they felt from our church, that they just wanted to know more. And so, you may come across individuals, places where feelings towards the church aren't that great, but of course the best way to fix that is the pure love of Christ and showing that through action and service. And so those are just two examples of things that you can do. I had a companion who was very, 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 very talented, violinist, guitarist, piano player, and he wasn't afraid to. He was a little bit shy, but he wasn't afraid to share his talent. And we met in Lithia Springs, a youth pastor for a Lutheran church, and we got to be very good friends with her. Her name's actually Laura. She's on the iron rod right here, and we. He actually performed while I was in that area at a Methodist, a Lutheran, and a Baptist church. And people came up to him afterwards and just shared asked him about what made him want to do that. And his love for music and his love for Christ was his answer. And that helped bring a lot of people to Christ. And so don't be afraid to get creative with your finding ideas. Obviously, make sure that they're appropriate, and you can talk to your leaders if you have any questions. But to not be afraid of suggesting these long-term projects that can be so powerful for hastening the work in each of the communities that you're in.